What if the healing you've been searching for has been hiding in the weird? Taking the Weird Out of Woo is a new series that's on a mission to normalize non-traditional therapies and explore healing beyond the mainstream, one episode at a time. Each week, we bring together 3 powerful elements: a skeptic who's open but unsure, an expert who's lived and studied the method, and a real experience that just might change everything. From sound healing to breathwork, energy medicine, and beyond, we're diving into the woo with curiosity, compassion, and a willingness to ask, could this actually help? This isn't just entertainment. It's an invitation to feel, to heal, and to explore what's possible when nothing else has worked. Welcome to Taking the Weird Out of Woo. Let's heal together. This episode's all about the things that I hear as an issue really on a wide scale here in the U.S. specifically, and that's anxiety, depression, sometimes suicidal ideation. I'm hearing a rise of all of these nervous system regulation issues. And today I felt like it was incredibly important to bring in a treatment that we're finding in the medical community is a real viable option for those that have run out of solutions, right? Those individuals that are like, I'm having panic attacks, I'm having OCD, I'm having these things where I feel like I can't control my life. And we're finding that this treatment with ketamine is helping on a significant level. We're seeing research that's showing that individuals that have suicidal ideation, it's turned off very, very quickly. That depression is getting better. Anxiety is getting better. However, I was so excited when I heard that there were a pairing of 2 modalities that is now bringing way better, more robust results in the end. And that was after I talked to beautiful Miss Jennie Pool. Oh. She is owner and founder of the MEND, meaning Mending Hearts, MEND Counseling Center here in Southern Utah. And we also have brought an incredible brave soul that is here being our skeptic on the show, and that's Trevor. So thank you both for being here. Thank you both for being on this show. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to be here. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I know. You're going to see with Jennie, the passion is so there. She is so ready to utilize this incredible treatment to help radically change someone's life. And then, of course, Trevor knows you a little bit from other walks of life, but he trusts you enough to go in and dip your toe. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, I honestly know, very little about this. And so most of it is just, I do know Jennie and I trust her. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try anything.
I love that. And I think really, as I was doing a lot of market research before even getting this show off the ground, I was talking to individuals that perhaps may be similar to you, Trevor, where, you've tried some things, you've tried to improve your life, you take good care of yourself, physically, and you're trying to do that mentally and emotionally, but maybe not to the extent that you're really wanting it to. Or I'm going to be hearing that from you, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But through my research, this is what I found. And the one main reason why they would try something is they trusted someone. Mm-hmm. Or they had a family member or friend or someone they trusted that allowed them to feel safe enough to go and dip their toe into something they had never done. And that takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of courage for you to be in this room, not really knowing what you're going to be doing, and not really knowing what ketamine's even going to do in your system, and then pairing it with this incredible release technique that Jennie has studied and learned. And now we're going to see what kind of results happen because of that pairing. And I'm going to have you know all the research. I don't know any of this. I'm really excited to hear about this. But let's just start there, Jennie. Let's start with, walk me through why you created this incredible platform that's so different and unique than perhaps other counseling centers. And then let's start talking about this one in particular.
For sure. So about a decade, well, more than a decade ago, I was in the therapeutic mental health field. I also studied structural bodywork, so I'm dual licensed in structural bodywork and clinical mental health therapy. And I knew back then that those worlds would collide. I think what's important to understand too about ketamine and somatic therapy, because that's what I believe is going to really move the needle on mental health, right? You have a huge wave of psychedelic assisted therapy coming in, but you also have a huge wave of somatic therapy coming in, because you can't just unencapsulate what's going on in the mind. You also have to slough off and unencapsulate what's going on in the body too.
Right.
And that's what somatic therapy does. And what makes these molecules in the psychedelic assisted therapy, and specifically ketamine, so powerful is that it's going to increase the efficacy at which the somatic therapy can help move, right? Well, everybody wants to reclaim their equilibrium, a sense of safety in the world. They don't want to stay just steeped in the traumas, retelling the story, recirculating. So, and there's a call to efficacy. You're seeing it in the medical field, and not to just sit there and be in the mess.
Right.
It's like,
So talk to me about efficacy, because that's not a word that perhaps I am familiar with, and maybe other people too. So what does efficacy mean?
effectiveness, right? If I come in and I ask you for help, I don't want to wait 3 years to get better.
Oh, and can I tell you how many times I've heard of family or friends that literally have been going to the same therapist for a decade? And I'm like, to me, bless their hearts, they can do whatever they want. But to me, if I was going and the same person for 10 years, I would wonder if I was with the right person. Like, at some point, I don't want to be going to therapy.
Well, you want to be able to put a period on the past, right? You want there to be a place where you go, I'm good. I've reclaimed my equilibrium. My sense of safety in the world is intact. I feel grounded and balanced, and I can traverse life, and my bandwidth aren't getting involved all the time. Because that's what nervous system tension does, and trauma in the nervous system, anxiety, depression, etc., like mental health issues, is they fog up the nervous system. And you see there's a lot of modalities coming online now that are built to repair and heal the nervous system. And that's where I think the true reclamation of equilibrium lies.
That's beautiful. I love that.
And I built MEND because a long time ago I saw these worlds merging. And while we're in a very sometimes touch-phobic kind of culture, especially around the medical community, and around
I'm looking at Trevor.
mental health.
Are you touch phobic?
Well,
he touches. He touches.
Long
Yeah,
story,
he's a body structure body work therapist. And so what you're going to find is safe therapeutic touch, but also somatic therapies help people reclaim that safety, and you can do it in a myriad of ways, right? We're going to talk about somatic therapies and also the combination of ketamine. But I built MEND Counseling Center because when I left residential treatment and kind of people that are kind of forced to be in it, and when you have treatment-resistant people, they're kind of made to do something. Their heart's not in it, right? So I wanted to build something where people wanted to come and heal. And I knew that I could do it uniquely because of my dual licensure, right? And I'd worked on, at that point, probably hundreds, if not thousands of bodies. And truly, when Dr. Bessel van der Kolk wrote "The Body Keeps the Score," it's truly what it is. The body records, so does the mind. So what you encapsulate in the mind, you're also encapsulating in the body, and you have to release it from the system as a whole. Our systems are designed to have synchronicity. Our lungs don't work separate from our heart, right? Our mental body doesn't work separate from our emotional body, nor does it from our physical body. So when you can create cohesiveness and healing, you can create more equilibrium, and you can repair that nervous system.
That is such a beautiful way of helping to describe, and it only makes sense. And I think that's what Western medicine, as a general rule of thumb, is starting to recognize, is that we can't compartmentalize things. You know, we have these specialties, and it's like, but one interacts with the other. And that's why holistic medicine is becoming so popular right now, and I think we'll get to you here in a second, Trevor, but you know this. You study the body, you work on bodies, and I would love to hear what. In fact, let's just go to that. So, Trevor, you are here for your own personal reasons, but how does this make sense so far to you that we're working with the body, and all of these in conjunction with the molecule, with the ability to help your body come into regulation? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for me. Me and Jenny have talked about it before. We've worked together for off and on for a while, and so she's explained it to me. I still know nothing about it. I still feel like I'm very uneducated in it.
Me too.
She talks about it. I'm like, a lot of it kind of goes over my head. But
We'll make it make sense.
yeah, and she does a great job at explaining it, and I love it how she is very like
She is
in simple terms and everything. Yeah, for sure. So, at this point, like, it all makes sense to me. It just still feels so new and just like I don't really understand.
Sure. And maybe it's because you need to experience it, right? And then we understand. But so take me through a day in your life. Who is Trevor? What does he do? Where do you go? Yeah.
So I'm a massage therapist. I like to say I do more body work. And I focus on a lot of like more like structural, like people that have imbalances in their body or injuries, and I like to do more of like the recovery side of it, or even just preparation for athletes and stuff. And so that's kind of what I do as a massage therapist. Other than that, like I do spend a lot of time focusing on myself, like you were saying, on healing, mentally, physically. I go to the gym every day. I don't have much of a life outside of those things. I've seen a lot of I've gone to a bunch of counseling and therapy for most of my life, just because of some childhood traumas, and I feel like a lot of times it feels like I am healing or getting over certain things, but then it does feel like it just kind of circles back around. Like, did I ever actually get over that? Or was it just because I talked about it so much that I was able to normalize it almost? And so I've gone through a lot of therapy in my life, but for me, it still feels like there's there's still like this anxiety that I want to be able to get rid of.
Okay.
And it's just always there for probably a bunch of different reasons that I've talked about in my past, but I just haven't ever found that.
So anxiety, and does the anxiety bleed into other areas of your life? Meaning, you mentioned you go to work, you go to the gym.
Yeah.
You don't really do much outside of that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, does it impact those other areas of your life that you're not really yearning for them, you're not wanting them, maybe relationships or intimacy or something, a hobby or play or, other areas of life?
I'll probably get more into this, but yeah, it definitely it's connected. So something I've talked with actually Jenny about is just that the anxiety, most of it comes from just like a fear of failure or going back to where I was, how I grew up. The just super poor and never knowing where your next meal is coming from kind of thing. And so I have this crippling like fear of ever going back to that. And I've worked so hard to get out of it. And so even when I do feel like if I am successful, and right now my business is doing great and everything, but there's always just like that fear of regressing. And so it's definitely all connected. And also, yes, in relationships as well. I always pull back and hold back as long as I possibly can. And for me, it feels safe and it feels healthy. And I guess that either I'm wrong or every other woman is wrong. But they're like, they want me to move faster. And eventually it probably is because of that same just anxiety that's been planted from when I was like a kid. So
yeah. Seems like you're pretty hyper independent, right?
Yeah.
Like I can rely on myself. I know I can trust me, that I get things done. I have safety and knowing I can control my life.
Yeah.
And if we get someone else in the mix, or we have a financial thing, or I noticed even earlier today that we had to ship a picture, that wasn't straight because it was something that was going to, a little OCD. So some hyper focus on controlling your environment, because sounds like your environment was anything but controllable when you were little.
Right.
So I can only imagine not being able to know that you're going to eat. Your basic survival mechanism kicks in and says, well, I've got to at least take care of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with my conversations with so many individuals, it tends to, the money never seems to be enough for you to feel safe.
Yeah.
Right? So you doing body work and like having your hands on bodies, can you feel trauma in the body when you are actually working on an area that's been injured or an area that's got inflammation? Do you sense it as a worker that there is an emotional connection to that, or are you just really, really focusing on the physicality of it?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think it kind of goes both ways. I think sometimes I think that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe in I'm not anti energy or energy work even necessarily. I still believe that there's energy transference in pretty much everything that we do through, even just being around people, but also especially through touch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would say there are times that it feels yes, I feel more of the trauma as I work on people. And I've also seen a lot of people have emotional releases, and that'll happen when working on the abdomen, working on areas that people tend to store trauma. And so, yes, I would say overall, yes, but it's more just specific skepticism towards certain things that are in that industry. And,
let's talk about that for a second.
Can I actually, real quick, can I give an example of the body keeps score and one of those I can feel trauma in the body is from that structural body work, lens, right, on that other things, and then couple that with the clinical mental health. I was working on someone and I came to their foot and they recoiled very quickly, and it wasn't because it tickled them or hurt them. And I looked at them and I said, but I asked, did that hurt? And they said, no, I don't really know why I did that. And now I feel weird. And I said, well, actually, that looked like a trauma response. So if you don't mind, let me go back in and let's see what's there. So as I brought awareness, right, and started to mine it, I gently put my hand back on the foot. And I said, I just want you to notice any feelings, any thoughts, maybe a memory that comes up as we connect to this specific spot in your body. And this is such a testament to the body Q score. Now, keep in mind, this isn't a trauma that was plaguing this person's life over and over and over again, right? This was something that was in the recesses of the brain. But once we touched it, it brought it up, right? So then we went just back in. And sure enough, this person was like, I haven't remembered this in forever. And I don't even know why other than this happened. Well, they had stepped on a hornet and a hornet's nest, and it was like stepping on a nail.
Yeah.
And then all the hornets came out, and which is scary for a kid. I think they were 8, and it just was this kind of horrific experience. Got away from the hornets, fixed the sting, but because you had never really cleared that from the body, right? The next time you touch it.
Fascinating.
Right, so again, this is one of those little T traumas that didn't take up a lot of room in this person's nervous system, but when we touched the body, and we gave it room to circulate, then we were able to slough it off, reclaim safety in the foot, and they never had that response again.
I love this whole scenario. I'm thinking about people in my life that also don't like their feet touched at all. And you think,
a lot of times because they were tickled too much, for example. Right?
Yes.
It was too much. Right? So
we have a culprit in the family. We know who that person is, and his name will not be mentioned. Damn the man. So yes. Yeah, no, I get it. And one of the things that I had been told is that so often the lack of energy in our systems right now, especially as adults, and particularly with how much stress we have in this world, is that every time we don't move emotion the way it's supposed to be moved out of our bodies, it will take up space in our bodies, be stored in our bodies, and that doesn't allow us.
Almost always in the fascia.
Yeah.
The fascia is a neural network. It's a highway that communicates from head to toe. Our whole body, our organs, everything is wrapped in fascia. They're starting to see the quantum connection that's in fascia. There's some beautiful studies out there.
That's amazing.
The connectivity of fascia and the way that it connects and communicates in the system. So when you start working on someone's fascia, not even the muscles or on binding.
That's just this cheesecloth kind of stuff, right? That keeps all of it together.
When you look at just to give someone an example in their brains, it's like when you are cooking chicken and there's that white, thin white stuff, that's fascia. But it's kind of this meshy system in the body that helps bind and keep everything together, so we're not just like blobby things walking around.
It keeps them form.
But more than structure, it's a communicator. And that's what they're finding.
That is fascinating. And this individual that was talking to me about, you know, these little T traumas really add up over time, because
if you don't process and digest them.
Right.
That's the key, right? When you talk about the expenditure of the energy, or the movement of the emotion, everyone needs to understand that an emotion will last anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. There's an end of it.
It's like going through the tunnel, go all the way through the tunnel. I've heard that before.
If we don't process and digest it, then all we do then is circulate it inside of our bodies, right? And then it gets stored somewhere.
And then it creates
that emotional
dysregulation, disease,
system tension,
right? Lack of energy, because the energy is going to something else that's no longer serving you, right? Like it did in the moment, but so we're basically all emotionally constipated, right?
People have the nervous system tension, right?
Yeah.
And you could build a practice just on helping someone reduce stress and nervous system tension, let alone tackle anxiety, depression, trauma. Yeah, everyone's walking around in a super stressed out state.
Yeah.
And the pace of life at which we're required sometimes to operate at isn't like nervous system friendly.
Yes, it's not nervous system friendly. I can imagine that you, having touched hundreds of bodies, maybe this makes a little bit of sense, or perhaps.
For sure.
Yeah.
So even just going back to what Jenny was just saying, because I feel like it's important, so we can understand kind of where I am at when it comes to that. I have people tell me all the time, clients, like, you do amazing energy work, like all the time. And when it first started, I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't do anything. I was, I worked out this knot in your back, right? I
just held space.
Because I felt, it helped, right? Which is, at the time I hadn't even really heard of that. But I'd be like, well, I felt this tension here, or I could see this, or I could, and then just like even what you guys were talking about with the tickling and sort of like trauma, where it's like some people are over tickled. I've had a bunch of clients that will tell me like, oh, you won't be able to work here, I'm too ticklish. Like if someone touches me there, I jump, I can't relax, I can't. And then for me, it'd be like, I'd be like, okay. But with the way that I did it and the intent, and easing into it and making sure they feel very comfortable and everything, every time they're like, wait, oh, like it's not even ticklish at all. And then I'll do the whole, the whole treatment afterwards. They'd be like, that was crazy. Like I felt this emotional release or these other releases. And I'd be like, so for a long time, I was like, well, that's because I got rid of that knot there. But I still think that there's a large portion of it that is energy. But my issue is that I've had people, other therapists, and especially even going through massage school, it's tough because if you're someone that wants to go in for like the medical side, which is what I was doing. I was originally planning on being a physical therapist, and I was like, I'm just going to try massage first, learn about the body anatomy, physiology, and pathology, and learning. And so to be in that environment where it's like shoved down your throat so many times, like the energy stuff, which at least that's how it was at my school.
You're kind of talking about the weird woo, though, when people make the woo unsafe.
Exactly.
Yes. And I actually asked Trevor, because we had this conversation just briefly over the phone, and I asked him to bring this up because I really want to harness this. So keep on with your story, and then we're going to talk about this.
For sure. Yeah. And so, and that's actually kind of where I was going, is that I had this major, like, just disdain for it, where I pulled away as far as I possibly could, because I was like, I'm going to stand on the other side of the room from them, because that has nothing to do with what I want to do. And I saw so many things that I was like, even people would come up to me and just be like, oh, let me clear your energy, and you have bad energy, and they'd be waving their hands in front of me. And so for me, without even being invited or anything, there's just, and so for me, it was so uncomfortable, and also a lot of stuff that felt almost like swindler's tricks. And so it actually wasn't until Jenny was one of the first ones that I talked to about it, where I was like, oh, and it started to kind of open up to more. And the reason being, first off, her approach was so different. She didn't
so beautiful.
Yeah, she didn't come in and instantly be like, oh, here, let me, like, oh, you need this crystal in your pocket, and start shoving things on my body. Like,
you got some dark energy. Let's clear that.
It's so invasive.
Yeah. Let's go.
Oh,
it's actually making my skin crawl. Yes.
Yeah.
Continue.
which again, I have nothing against people, like if they want crystals and stuff, but it's just like the whole imposing on you thing. So, when I met her, I was like, okay. And I was instantly more open to talking about it and also sharing my feelings on it, because I typically just stay quiet when someone comes to me, because they work with me and they start going into all that stuff. And I stay quiet because I don't want, like, I know what I do helps and that I can, heal, but, or, facilitate, or, but I stay quiet because it's not something I feel comfortable talking about by how they're going to react.
Right.
And so Jenny, we've been able to talk about pretty much all of it whenever, and I've been able to understand that, like, that she is not like, like the one that I've met. And I was like, okay, like, wait a second, so that you can still be normal. And
well,
this
clinical,
is the
right?
show.
So steeped in, one of the things that you're trying to bridge is medical and clinical, and efficacy and research, and like these are things that you can even base science on, right?
Yes.
That you can prove.
Yes.
Right. With holistic and what we would call woo, is that where's the bridge in that?
Yes.
And then the middle of that is where some of these somatic therapies that are so beautiful that are hard to describe the efficacy of them until you experience them.
Exactly.
And the unwinding, the healing, and the repair. But it's built on consent, right? It's built on window of tolerance. It's not invasive. I would never do trauma work on somebody that, one, wasn't ready for it, and two, their window of tolerance didn't sustain it. So and sometimes these people are traversing me like, you have bad energy. Going, one, I didn't even ask for that. Two, are you sure? Because I don't know if I trust you. I don't even know you that well.
Yeah.
Right? And I actually would never do work with these, what I call sacred molecules, any of the plant medicines, but specifically ketamine, if somebody wasn't ready for them. I've had people go, hey, do a ketamine session with me. And I'm like, you're not ready.
No.
So no.
I love this. I love this discussion because taking the weird out of woo was designed for someone just like you, Trevor, who has seen this world that sometimes goes very extreme. Okay? Let's just call it what it is. And it makes it look, quote unquote, weird, right? Even though there are some viable options out there in woo, in non-traditional therapies, and we want to normalize the ones that really do have valid science, do have the backing, do have statistics and research, and it's not just based on opinion. And I'm going to invite the wonderful world of woo out there, because I am part of your world, to learn how to have consent, to learn how to have boundaries, to learn that, yes, you are enthusiastic. Yes, you feel like this has changed your world. You're excited, you're eager, you want to share it with people and help bless their lives. But it is not your business to impose your beliefs on someone else unless they want that and invite that into their life. It's just like someone who is so excited about this new religion that is in their life, and they come and they start trying to get you and come to church and, change your life, and you didn't give them consent. It feels the same way, and that you get the exact opposite, where they're pushing you away because you didn't give the invitation. There was no invitation to have you come in and have that as something that might be a viable option. You may actually end up finding one day that energy work is pretty freaking amazing, legit, if someone could present it in a way like Jenny that says, hey, let's take the viable part of this practice and apply it so that you can have radical transformation and healing. And that's what you do.
You have to make it make sense, Wendy. I think you have to make it make sense.
100%.
If this feels ambiguous and just odd and bizarre,
that's your gut saying something, isn't it?
Well, and also some people may not say anything, but they're going to leave going, I'm confused, not necessarily feeling more healed, right? It doesn't mean you can't have more questions later. Like if someone's had a tough therapy sessions, for example, and they might go, hey, as I reflected upon that, here are some things I want to talk about next time we meet, right? That's different than kind of being in this ambiguous world. We're not quite sure what happened. That's why, again, you see a call to the medical field too right now, is make it make sense. If you're going to tell me to take this med, you better tell me why, instead of just like, hey, this doctor told me to, I'm going to. Like, medical doctors are having to show a better bedside manner because people are going, make this make sense.
Right.
And how is this helping me? And is it going to get me over here, or are we just going to spin around?
Right. Which leads us to some really cool things that you're really wanting. You kind of have a mission out there, because I've had several family members in my own family that have had ketamine, but it is the traditional way. They're in a chair with an IV with a nature track where they're watching it, some pretty music, and some it is radically helped. And others, I almost wonder if it created more trauma, quite honestly. And so I'd love for you to speak to that, because I think that you bridging this somatic with the ketamine, that's what I was so excited about you being on the show, because this is radically different. And I feel like this is the way that we're going to elevate this modality in the world and actually be able to help address some of the things that you really want in your life.
Yeah. I'll talk about what I think makes the molecule of ketamine beautiful. Something to say about the world of psychedelics, because they're all coming in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're all
Let's talk about it.
Ketamine's been legal. It's always been legal because it's an analgesic, right? It's been used to put people to sleep when they're doing surgeries. So it's never been illegal. People abuse it out in the streets, but it's been legalized, right? You're going to see all of the other vehicles, MDMA, psilocybin. They're all eventually going to find a place in kind of this therapy. So it's important to know that if you're in those vehicles, you ought to have safe spaces. People are doing them.
Thank you, Jennie.
I just want to say that.
Thank you, Jennie.
And doing a bunch of mushrooms and hoping to have some kind of safe, sacred experience is dangerous. It just is.
Yeah.
Right? The people that you choose to shepherd these experiences with ought to be able to anchor the body in safety. I'm in a safe place. I'm with a safe person, and it's safe to journey. Like that's really the set and setting in the runway ought to have been built incredibly well, so that when somebody is in the altered states, they are so safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the basis of kind of my soapbox on any altered state or any of these molecules or any of these vehicles. But ketamine specifically, this is what makes ketamine special. Okay, the typical neurotransmitters, when you're taking antidepressants, they go through the serotonin pathways. What you need to know about that, as far as this quick little brain chemistry, let's say. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Without being brain surgeons or brain specialists, is that an antidepressant will be more blunting. It's going to kind of blunt and it's going to kind of block, right? What makes ketamine special is it goes to the glutamate process in the brain, which excites the neurons. So then you create this increased opportunity for neuroplasticity. That's not what's happening in the serotonin pathways. In the glutamate pathways, that's what's happening. So you have an opportunity for this increased neuroplasticity. So PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, they kind of trench into the brain, right? And so when you increase neuroplasticity, you get this more flexible system in the brain, and you have an opportunity to deconstruct maladaptive neural networking.
So we can rewire the wiring.
Yes. Ketamine helps do that. But ketamine as a standalone isn't a fix-all, and that's what I want people to really understand. You can go sit in a chair and get an infusion, but if you don't have some processing and good therapy before, some integration afterward, I'll just say this, because if you don't, I'm just some therapist from Utah, right? Dr. Bessel van der Kolk has a national platform. He wrote the Body Keep Score, and he's at the forefront of all this research with all these molecules. He will say, putting people in chairs, giving them shots, and leaving them alone is not a holistic way to do this medicine. Medicine is best used as an adjunct to really incredible therapy in the hands of somebody that knows how to hold space for you, right? Because you want to make use of that neuroplasticity. If you're going to open the spaces, these are mining molecules. Okay, they're going to mine what's in your psyche. They're not just going to blanket the neurotransmitter and create calmness, which is medically what a lot of them will do, right? But it's also going to mine, and if it's going to increase neuroplasticity, you want to be in the hands of someone who's going to help you make use of that neuroplasticity, that openness there, so that we can create new neural pathways, we can create deeper healing. And when you talk about efficacy, this kind of therapy, especially combined with somatics, will move the needle. So you're not in therapy forever. Nobody wants to sit there and tell their trauma stories over and over and over again with no movement on the other side of that.
Yeah. It brings so much hope, so much healing. So many lives can be changed by allowing, these big T traumas, these little T traumas, an opportunity to surface and be able to feel safe enough to be moved through the body.
Well, here's what they're doing in the nervous system. I'll tell you, if someone has a big T trauma, it's doing this. So the memory's there and it's doing this. So it's like dropping a pinball in the body, And let's say something happened when you were 12, there's one pinball. Let's say something happened when you were 16, there's another pinball. And here I'm 30, and these pinballs are just spinning around, wreaking havoc on the nervous system while I'm trying to live life in my 30s or 40s, right? To finally get those pinballs to stop spinning and out so there can be more equilibrium and safety. What wasn't safe then, I could trust the truth of today, which is I'm safe today. And there could be deep healing. So you're not going to erase memories, but you're going to take the activation out of the nervous system so that the memory just does this. It's that neutral. It's not going like this.
Yeah.
And that's nervous system healing. That's nervous system repair. And that's reclaiming your equilibrium and that sense of safety in the world.
And how empowering. I'm just curious from Trevor's perspective, what would life be like without anxiety?
That is like my only goal right now is to get rid of that. I think life would be perfect without anxiety.
Yeah.
That's what I tell you. Even as I've gone through therapy, my whole life, and they asked that question of like, if this were to work out perfectly, if this were to be a magic cure-all by tomorrow, what would that mean? What would you feel like? I'm like, I'd want to just be like worry-free, not going circles in my mind every single day, stressing about things that I really don't necessarily need to because I've always figured out a way to make it work. But for me, it would like losing that would be everything. If we can figure that out, then I'm good.
Just to give you an example of how anxiety hits the system, right? Whatever levels they are. Sometimes in panic attacks every day versus just mild anxiety. It's a hypervigilance in the nervous system. There's been enough situations in the world that's happened where it's like, I have to be what if, so the sensors are always on.
I understand that.
Right? And so when someone can calm the baseline anxiety to just have more peace, more equilibrium, all of a sudden there's more, their bandwidths aren't supposed to be blown all the time. There's just more life energy for life.
Oh, I understand this. The first time that I felt peace, I'm very similar to you, Trevor. I had a lot of trauma in my teenage years, a lot in my 20s. I searched for every answer for reclaiming safety. I didn't even know what that was. And I always wondered what that could look like. And through beautiful practitioners, non-traditional therapies, holistic ways of being that I dove into a decade ago because I had run out of my own options. Really, this show is for someone just like me that went on this journey 10 years ago. And because my life is so radically different now, and the first time I felt peace, I can't even tell you what that felt like. I was actually sitting, not that long ago, I had an entire week of just feeling peace. And I was with some friends, and there was even a little bit of programming that was coming up that was like, but what if? Like, and actually what was really fascinating was, who are you without this? Like, who are you without always feeling tension? Who are you without feeling this friction and this movement? And I kept reminding myself, a person who's free, a person who is free, who finally let herself out of her own dungeon. Mm-hmm. That's who I am. And I am so excited for you, Trevor, because I can't even imagine. You seem like such a strong, forthright individual. You speak your truth. You speak. I've heard through our initial conversation, and even tonight, that if you're not going to be able to speak truthfully and with integrity, you just kind of just sit with your own thoughts. I see this man that's very strong with physicality and making things happen in his own life, going from an impoverished situation to now success at the workplace and through so many various vehicles. But I can only imagine the best version of Trevor without anxiety, without worry, without OCD, without the constant barrage of thoughts of what if. And I just feel like perhaps, first of all, you're open enough. You're willing to dip your toe into this wonderful world that is outside the traditional lens. And now here is someone who can teach with sound advice, with statistics, with research, with medical knowledge, but also with knowledge of how the body keeps the score. Yeah. And so that's where we're going. So I would love for you to continue anything that you want to bring to the attention of the audience and what you think they or Trevor may need to know in order to feel safe with this. And then I would also like you to start to tell Trevor what to expect tonight. What are we going to have? So let's go ahead and go to the next thing.
So I want to show you some. So I want to just, and your team can kind of slow this down because I want to capture this because it's somatics and it's in real time. So when you think about that time that you, for the first time in your life, felt peace, bring it up again. Just be like, that first time I felt peace where I wasn't and anxiety.
I feel it.
And think about the time and bring that into the frontal cortex, right? Bring that memory.
It's miraculous. It's so beautiful. So, yeah.
And tell me about it a little bit. What do you remember about it?
I had had peace in various forms for a long time, just little tiny introductions. But it was actually, I had gone to a silent retreat for 5 days. And the first 2 days were a hell of chaos. Like,
but remember that. Remember the hell of chaos.
Yes.
Take yourself there in that moment
yes.
right now.
Yes. And then.
So I just want to slow this down right now because this is what I want to show you. This is real-time somatics. You don't even have to put your hands on someone. I'm watching every single thing you're doing, the attunement, the facial expressions, the way you swallow, the way your breath changes. And you guys can slow this down. She closed her eyes when she did it this time, but when she talked about it the first time, when you were like, the first time I felt peace, your eyes went up to the side and they got activated. They actually start to wobble a little bit. That's what we call activation, as she's pulling the file from the memory system in the brain, the short-term, long-term memory. So Wendy was doing that in real time, and had we made use of that in that moment, like, hey, we could.
I'm saying though that we can still do it. Yeah. Keep going, going, sister. We don't have to stop this. We don't have to edit this. You keep going, sister.
Well, the beautiful thing about somatics is they don't have to be hands-on. There's some beautiful modalities: brain spotting, EMDR, ART, TRE. These are all modalities that people looked them up. They induce the ability for the body to pull a file, and then we hold it, and we unwind whatever's in that. You happen to be connecting to something that brought you peace, but you can do that with trauma too. So you're going to see activation.
Absolutely. I know. I can say that I know exactly what my body does when I am focused on that.
Yeah.
Done that enough times, and now I'm practicing the other, which is that peace and just that. I never knew how I would just remember, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to take a breath. Oh my gosh, this is how it feels like to rest. This is what it feels like. This is what people say, that you can literally be free of thought. Yeah. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, that deep unbinding. And this is how I'm going to connect it to some of the field of psychedelic assisted therapy, right? Is that it's not for everyone. It's really trendy right now. Thank you. Go do ketamine. Go do ketamine. Go do some mushrooms.
Oh, it's just easy. It's the magic pill.
But what I just showcased there, and again, you can see it. You can make so much use of somatics because there's so much utility in doing somatics without having to have these molecules on board. So they really ought to be treated as sacred, and sacred space ought to be held for them because you're traversing some of the most sacred spaces with people as they unbind, and they're also altering their reality, right? And so they're extra vulnerable. And so when someone comes in and just wants to have an experience, I always tell them, why do you want this? What are we doing it for? You need to have a reason. And you also need to be ready for it. Your coping mechanisms to deal with stress and strife and tough times, because these molecules will also be challenging. You will have to sometimes mind and face some of the hardest things in your life. And if you don't have good coping mechanisms and you're not ready, again, it's window of tolerance. Then that runway needs to be set. And that's why I don't like when this kind of stuff is done haphazardly. Yeah. It needs to be done safely with safe people who have been trained. I did a year-long training at what's called the IPI Institute. It's the Institute for Psychiatrics. Oh, I'm going to slaughter it right now. But it was for psychedelic-assisted therapy, a whole year-long training. Prior to that, I was steeped in understanding these molecules myself. So someone who's went and done mushrooms, and then was like, hey, I'm ready to hold a bunch of ceremonies. Well, let's not go with that.
Oh, let me tell you. And even ketamine, I'm so grateful that you're bringing this up, because my first experience with ketamine, I did trust the person, and it was ketamine with some breath work. And I think that I was given too much, even though I had mentioned that I don't really need a whole lot for me to go really deep. And there was some encouragement to take the recommended dosage, which I did. And I was not functioning for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I could not stand and I could not walk. And then I got home and finally slept. And the next day I was in the most paranoid, out of control, like I wasn't even in my body for 12 hours. And so when I
So you didn't go see
say,
a therapist for integration afterward?
no,
Yeah. And that wasn't suggested?
No.
Right.
So, I mean, I was supposed to journal. I'm supposed to journal.
Dear therapist, journal.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I am that example of how it could potentially not be helpful in healing.
Yeah.
In fact, I almost didn't ever try it again because
Sure.
I was like, oh, I don't think so. That's just not for me.
It's too much too fast. And this is what I would also say is the into like setting the runway, set and setting, it all matters. And also integration. You can have a magnificent experience with these molecules, a deeply healing experience, but you don't have someone to shepherd, like, again, making use of that neuroplasticity. Like, what do we do with all of this? And so that's where connecting with therapy afterward, like I said, ketamine ought to be an adjunct to really good therapy because then you can make better use of all of the therapy that you're doing with this person, right? And so the integration is huge because it's like saturating a sponge, and then we make use of this experience rather than being some one-off experience that now gets cataloged as like kind of like that, kind of didn't. Wow, that was interesting, but now I don't really know what to do with anything that came up. That's why integration is so huge. And anyone that's suggesting that you use these molecules with no therapy is not doing it holistically. And I'll be bold when I say that. Even Dr. Bessel van der Kolk will say that. These molecules ought to be shepherded with something you better be in good hands.
Yeah. And I'm really excited that one of your missions is to go and help these doctors who are utilizing this technology to also allow their patients to have this radical opportunity, this window of this neuroplasticity to really start working on some things that are the root of what's going on.
Beautiful collaborations. I have some beautiful collaborations with medical professionals, and that ought to be how it is, right? Medical professionals with mental health professionals really collaborating on how to make use of this molecule so that we're creating safe therapeutic experiences. And sometimes it's just too much too fast. You have to always window.
Yeah.
You always have to honor a window of tolerance, or you become injurious to a system and you're a part of the injury rather than the healing.
Okay. So let's go on to what is going to happen tonight. What's going to happen with Trevor? I know you would always set up safety, but for the audience and so they understand what's going to happen. And Trevor, you've got some questions I can see.
Yeah, well, more of an explanation. So I came into this having absolutely no idea or no preparation at all or anything. So what I want to do is just make sure that I'm clear in what I'm saying because I was thinking about it and I was like, I might have come off a little bit strong earlier. I want to make sure that it's clear that I like didn't think everybody that loves energy work is like crazy or anything. So I just wanted to, because it might come across a little bit strong. I literally have some of my closest, friends and probably 60-70% of my clients that are that's kind of their whole life. And so I just want to be clear that I was talking about the specific ones that
We're invasive.
have come
That have not gotten consent, have not, no, and I'm with you, Trevor, because I live in this world, right? So in this world, I do have people who are that individual that do it with courtesy, with respect, do know what they are practicing, understand what they're doing, and have deep respect for other people's free agency. And so I'm in total agreement. So thank you for clarifying.
I just wanted to stop before we got trying to forget or something.
Yeah.
So I'll just lay so when we're in it, right, everyone can kind of get a sense of what we're doing. So, and this is why I think the beautiful collaboration with medical providers is so important, and people that understand the sacredness of these molecules and saying, hey, yes, I absolutely, because I can't. I'm not a prescriber, and so I need to stay in my lane as a mental health professional who can hold space for somatic therapy, right, and really good trauma work, and also hold space for someone who is on ketamine. I'm well versed in that, but I have to have a provider, right, with a prescription, right, because Trevor's not getting a shot, which you would do in a medical office, or an infusion, which you would do with a medical provider. Those are the people that have the reins to do that, right? The medical ability to hold that space. So he's going to take a troche where the medicine's embedded in that. It's like sucking on a wax, something that wax with the ketamine is suspended. Okay, and so I have beautiful collaborations with medical providers. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, and that I think there's a lot of people in the medical field that are willing to collaborate and go, hey, let's do ketamine holistically, and let's hold a really beautiful space. And I would love to educate or kind of augment medical offices to include more somatics, because I believe they're a huge fundamental piece of making use of these molecules, especially ketamine, right, with the neuroplasticity. Because someone doesn't have to talk about stuff for you to move stuff off the body, and that's where somatics come in. So I always, while they're getting into the medicine, so Trevor will take the ketamine, and as he's sitting on my couch, I'll burn Palo Santo wood. Palo Santo is my favorite, because, and this is why this is important. It's our senses, right? Our sense of taste, our sense of touch, our sense of smell, our sense of what we feel. Through the senses is how we can excite the nervous system, or we can decompress it. So when we use smells, when we use the sound vibrations that are going to be from the sound table, sound therapy, it helps decompress the nervous system and create safety. We anchor the body in safety. So when I burn the Palo Santo wood around Trevor as he's getting into the medicine, and ketamine's pretty quick, he'll probably go within 5 to 10 minutes, we're setting intention. As I connect to the medicine of ketamine, what do I need? What can I connect to and heal and repair? What do I need to know and understand? Because sometimes we're awakening and opening up consciousness with that neuroplasticity, and sometimes we're mining and healing and repairing, right? Or are we finding some splinters in the system that we can work on, right? So just getting the medicine, we're setting the tone and getting him safety. And when he starts to feel it, we'll go down the sound table, where he can
What's a sound table?
It's vibroacoustic sound therapy. So you can actually feel the music. You don't just hear it.
What a cool experience.
So now you're having a kinesthetic experience. And I run binaural beats, which are specific to theta and delta waves of music. So you're going to feel the binaural beats that kind of pop. You're not going to hear that because it's embedded in this really soft music. So in about 20 to 30 minutes, the sound table, a vibroacoustic sound table, will decompress the nervous system when you're running specific frequencies through it. So we run those frequencies through the sound table so that people in the ketamine can immediately anchor their body into safety. Okay? And we'll start and pace down. And people can sit however they want. If they're uncomfortable and they want to turn around, I have a skylight, because again, what we see, and so you can see really, really soothing things from in the visual cortex. So we're using all of the senses to decompress and create safety in the nervous system. And the invitation is, as I connect to the medicine, I'm in a safe place, I'm with a safe person, and it's safe to journey. And then he journeys, and we'll see, people can talk as much as they want. Sometimes they talk hardly at all. And the arc of the medicine usually is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on people who metabolize it. Again, it's a faster vehicle than some of the other molecules. And then we ground. We reclaim safety in the body as we come back to the present moment. And then we'll have an integration session the next day where Trevor will have a sentence to go. Can you show the stuff that came up? As he's coming out of medicine, we can talk about some of that. But sometimes there's just so much that goes on in such a short amount of time.
Right.
It's like, we'll make some sense of this. And then that's why integration post these molecules is so important within, I think, 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. That's beautiful. So you had mentioned, do you have something you're going to be doing?
I have a bunch of different somatic tools that I'll have. I'll explain a couple of them now. Like, I have different sound therapies. Like, there's a singing pyramid that I use. I'll use sound bowls. I also have a Theragun it's a percussion tool. Trevor will understand this as a bodywork therapist. There is a soft attachment, and then there are hard attachments. The harder attachments are used for fascia and muscles. You'll see athletes use them, like the NFL locker rooms have Theraguns.
I think we have one at home.
And they have one at home. There's a lot of different kinds of percussion tools, but I have never found one that has the soft tool like the Theragun. It's proprietary for them. And it creates now, instead of a muscle and fascia tool, it can turn it into a somatic tool. And so I can percuss the body and create vibration and movement. And it's like that idea when I told you when animals go into shock, or when we go into shock, we're sloughing off that nervous system tension, that trauma energy. So we can mechanically induce that tremoring. That's how we slough off somatically while people in medicine. It's a huge somatic, it's just a huge somatic tool to help reclaim safety in the body and reclaim equilibrium without having to have a heavy talk process, because we're moving all of that somatic debris right off the body.
sounds like a magical time. I mean, the smells,
We'll see.
the sights, well, at least there's safety. You're introducing safety.
It can be challenging and it can be beautiful. I've had all the great thing about anchoring safety is when it's challenging. And this is one of the things I told you is I don't really do blind. I won't do this medicine blind. Like I won't have someone just randomly come to me and be like, hey, do a ketamine session. Like when I told you I would do this, I was like, hey, I need to know them and have talked to them so that we can build some therapeutic rapport so that there's some safety established. So that when I take them into the medicine, I'm not just some random person that's holding space like, hey, this lady seems nice, but I don't really know her, right? So with Trevor, there was already some therapeutic rapport that was built. So it's safe for him to trust me because, again, part of the whole idea of being safe in these molecules.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone should do that. I think that everyone should have some really good therapeutic rapport built. Doing an intensive like this needs to make sense.
Right.
And there needs to be some ideas of like, hey, what work are we going to get done? Or what can we do to help give the nervous system some rest and respite? For someone that's had lifelong anxiety, sometimes it's not about healing a specific trauma. It's going, let's keep the nervous system a break.
Wow. Yeah. And like you said, just to be able to feel maybe a little bit of neutrality, maybe not even peace yet, maybe just a break. Do you sleep well?
Breathe. No.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I do not.
All right. So it's on all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just know. I mean, you saw it. You saw the expression. You see that I'm connecting to this beautiful place of peace because I finally found it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was the majority of my life. And so I guess there's this very anticipation of like, whoa, you get to open this beautiful Christmas present and perhaps find something.
It's not one and done. So one of the things that him and going infusion, you may experience more calm in your nervous system for the next few months. But in regards to healing and repair, on things that something like anxiety or treatment-resistant depression or trauma, you're going to have to kind of come at that. But the beautiful thing about this molecule, as I said, is that you're not doing it for years. It's gonna increase the rate at which you can get the healing, the deep healing done. People are ready to get it done.
That is wonderful. So what are your thoughts now, Trevor?
I'm sure to try it. I'll have. I feel like I've had enough time to think about it and try to understand it. But even to this point, I'm like, I feel like until I actually try it, that I'm not gonna really know.
Yeah. Yeah, because it'll just be your mind creating another story about something, right? And I know I'm a really good storyteller, I'll tell you what, and I'm pretty melodramatic. Like, I can hypersensationalize just about anything. So, and I know that about me, but now I know it. Now I'm aware of it. And I feel like awareness is the antidote to suffering because you have to be aware first. And then it's like, oh, yes, that is me doing what I do best, which is create a story. Do I want to create a story? No, I don't want to create a story. I like peace. I'm going to go back to the peace. So, yeah. And I'm just curious, are there any, like, I mean, you've been doing this. Are you watching people transforming their lives, creating healthier, balanced, more lives with more intimacy or better work outcomes at work or better health?
100%. Like I got busy so fast when I started to build my own thing, and this is going to be maybe a little bit silly, but it was actually one of my own molecule medicine experiences where I was getting busy so fast. The way that I hold space is unique, and I would love for more people to learn somatics. It's a big love of mine to teach that. And I knew that I was like, I can't do this one-on-one. Like I have to build a team. I have to have something bigger. And so in one of my spaces, it was like filled with dreams, you guys. It was so silly. It was like, if you build it, they will come kind of a moment. And I was in a baseball field, and there was a huge fence, and only one at a time could come in. That's what I was seeing. And all of a sudden, I started adding people to my team, and 2 could come in, and 3 could come in. I was like, okay, I got to build a team. And that's where the idea of building men counseling center came in. So I'm like, I want the world to have a place that's unique where all of these modalities, and it's built. Like I have some incredible therapists. I have 2 other therapists that do ketamine assisted therapy. I have a therapist that really focuses on neurochemistry and somatics. Well, I have two therapists that really focus on deep in somatics, and they have a lot of their own modalities. And then a hugely experienced team that holds space for, I am so appreciative of the team that I built. We have 9 therapists and then growing. So, I trust that the right people are going to find men that want to be a part of something that's really unique. And I love teaching other therapists in the community, and I do a lot of it.
Yeah, and even now, perhaps even the medical professional.
I really hope so. I think there's such beautiful collaborations to be had there. I think, one of the things that was really cool about the training I was in at the IPA Institute, it was national. There was even some people from Europe and from other different parts of the world. And that just shows you how interested people are in psychedelic-assisted therapy. And there were so many medical professionals interested in doing this with more of a holistic wrap. And I felt that was it was so beautiful to see them there, not just mental health therapists, but the medical community going, we want to do this holistically.
I love this. Well, it's time for us to head to this experience. And like you said, Trevor, I don't know until I try. I don't know until I actually feel what it feels like. So now it's your time to get to have that experience somatically in a safe space with a beautiful molecule that has the capacity to maybe address some of the things that you haven't been able to address with something else. And I am very appreciative that you trusted this show, that you trusted me, that you trusted Jennie, or that you trust, I should say, not trusted, and that you're going to go in and be that person, that courageous person that will try it. So perhaps someone that's watching that is saying, I'm just like Trevor. Like he just completely described my entire life. And I am also looking for a way out of this cycle of worry, this cycle of constant control in my life. I would like to also see, and we'll see if it works for you. And then you can speak to that person, or more likely, lots of those persons. And perhaps it is something that they can now take into their life. Find someone like you.
Yeah.
Or we'll be giving them some ideas at the very end of how they can do this.
Well, I want people to know that so many people have said, I've never had anyone do therapy like you. I want people to know that there are so many people that are doing somatic therapy. Let's get you connected. It doesn't have to be me. There's plenty of people out there that are doing some beautiful work in the world of somatics. And these molecules aren't for everyone, but if you're ready for them, then let's hold safe space for you, and so that you can journey safely.